We've got Craig Kanarick. He's a consultant in digital technology and co-founder of Razorfish. Rick Grefé, executive director of the AIGA. John Winsor, chief executive officer of Victors and Spoils. Mike Sampson, co-founder of CrowdSPRING. Chris Clarke, chief creative officer of LBI. Ben Malbon, founder of BBH Labs. And Adam Glickman, the founder of theIdealists and Tokion magazine. Great. If you're on Twitter, the hashtag for tonight's event is #PrattCS. Without further delay, I'd like to introduce our moderator for tonight, Professor Roger Guilfoyle from the Graduate Communication Design Department. Roger brings an astute eye and keen mind to this conversation, and we're lucky to have him here.
Thank you, Alexander, and welcome everybody. It's a great crowd here, and welcome you all for coming. We're going to discuss the phenomenon of crowdsourcing. And it sounds like the easiest way to lead this off would be to ask you all to tell us what is crowdsourcing. I will take the first crack at that. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but the way I think of crowdsourcing is to take a task and divide that task up over a widely distributed network of people to complete that task. An example of it that we like to use is Wikipedia. Wikipedia is an online encyclopedia that is edited and written by large crowds of people distributed across the globe who collaborate at distances on each entry in Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I think the issue of crowdsourcing doesn't really address what role crowdsourcing is playing in the vernacular right now, or the discussion of it. I think that crowdsourcing as a term is attracting a lot of different points of view. And I think that it's a business model for some people. It's a knowledge gathering model in the case that you just represented. And I think if the panel is going to be useful tonight, one of the things that we need to do, I think, is to begin to parse all those pieces. I'm not sure I'm the one to do that, because each of the other players here actually is using it to advantages productive advantages in terms of their own practices. And representing the design profession, one of the things that I want to do is talk about different elements of crowdsourcing as it affects business models, productivity, respect for the professional. So my role is probably more a reactive role, but I think each of the other panelists really is using it for some productive advantage.
I guess, for me, I had a few careers. I started off in the newspaper business and then in the magazine publishing business. And so I tend to always step back and try to for me personally, make more sense of what's happening historically and from a context. And I really believe we're moving from kind of this world of scarcity where it's a world based on command and control to a world of abundance where lots and lots of people have tools, and what happens and what needs to happen is more inspiration and collaboration. I was telling some folks here earlier that when I started my publishing company, my first publishing company, I decided the only way I could go into business, because I was an entrepreneur and I put my house on the line, was to buy a Mac and a laser writer and I begged some software from the guys at Clarke, a bayonet version of their typesetting software for Macintosh, and then a 20 megabyte keeper. That cost me $23,000, but it saved me $35,000 annual expense for typesetting. And so, when I went in to take my version of trying to set type on the Macintosh and show the typesetters the magazine and ask them to, they still did the ads, they said, oh, this desktop publishing thing will never work. Look at the letting and kerning of your magazine. It'll never satisfy the reader's needs, and the shape your New Times Roman is all off, and it's just too rough. It was an economic thing for me. If I wanted to be an individual and an entrepreneur and try to serve my readers, which was really small, it was a running community in Colorado, I had to find a better way economically to do that. And that disruption, that Macintosh disruption, kind of going from scarcity of knowledge that really, these craftsmen held in these typesetters to this abundance where all of us can have a Macintosh and set our own type was a big change. And I think that's what's happening now, is that when you globally distribute the tools with the speed of technology, the speed of digitally accessed tools, that a lot more people can get in the game. So I guess that's my perspective on what's happening and how that, crowdsourcing is certainly one thing. I think we see co-creation and mass collaboration, a lot of other things, but it's definitely a change, and it's going to affect all of us in this room, for sure.
One of the things that might be useful to address as well is that obviously, most people in this room hoping to make a living from design. I guess the hot potato is this whole issue of people not being properly rewarded for their efforts and so on. And just on that point, I think we were talking about it a little bit backstage just now. I think the thing that's really surprising is the level of myopia and hysteria coming from the design community about this threat of crowdsourcing. And it's much like the typesetters, and it's much like the scribes in monasteries who were a little bit worried about Gutenberg's printing press. And it's like the handloom weavers that went and, the Luddites that went and smashed up the weaving machines in England in the 19th century. This has always happened. The ability to use a technology is never ever going to be a point of difference. And so if there's anybody in this room who thinks they can make a living out of learning a software package or knowing how gaining the priestly knowledge of a particular kind of technology, it'll give you an advantage for, in the old days it gave you an advantage for 10 years or something. Now it might give you an advantage for about 3 weeks. So the important thing that I would say to anybody in this room is that if you want to sort of be successful and make money in your career, is to focus on the quality of your ideas, because those are the things that can't be commoditized. So I think it'd be far better for the design industry in general to stop being Luddites and stop, getting bent out of shape about how unfair it is that it's possible to get some of the things that used to cost a lot of money done cheaper, and think about how we use open innovation and crowdsourcing in clever ways to make better products that are more useful and more interesting. Because that I think is the real excitement of crowdsourcing, because it really offers us huge opportunity.
Yeah, I'll just throw on the back of that some comments from a kind of agency perspective. So someone who runs kind of innovation focus group in an agency, like most disruptive innovations, you can see crowdsourcing or open innovation as both an opportunity but also a threat. And it's up to us, we believe, to work out whether it's an opportunity or a threat. And at the moment, we don't quite know which one makes it an opportunity. It could be a threat. Certainly it's a threat if you look at the fact that some of our clients, our current clients, are using crowdsourcing or open innovation or forms of open collaboration to create some of the materials that we would traditionally create for them. So therefore, that's a threat to us. On the opportunity side, we're interested in exploring ways in which the crowd can produce different kinds of creative outcome that we may not be able to access with a very much smaller crowd, a retaining crowd, if you like, in the form of the creative department. But we're also looking at the opportunity that's afforded by the crowd being a kind of media channel, if you like, as well as a creative community. And I know that there's very different types of crowd, or different types of use of a crowd or a group of people. And those are the areas of opportunity we're pushing into. How can we, if you like, create our own nemesis? So how can we create a crowdsourcing or an open collaboration platform that we can use for clients who want to experiment, so that we're the people doing it rather than our competitors? And secondly, how can we use the crowd as in a more productive way to become part of both the creative and the media process that's involved in communications and marketing. So yeah, we're on the fence. Some days it's an opportunity, some days it's definitely a threat.